Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. It's the day of the fight, September the 30th, 2017. Short video, at least. Those are my thoughts right now. I like Mairis Briedis big over Mike Perez. The casino has properly priced this one, right? Mairis Briedis is a minus 455, meaning that he's a greater than 4-1 favorite. He should be. I know many people remember Mike Perez when he was a heavyweight. They want to believe that he's a bigger man moving down to the cruiserweight division. Understand, these moves by athletes in the middle of their careers to lighter divisions almost never work. Think about Chris Bird. Think about Adrian Broner right now. Right? When you lose the weight, there's a reason why Mike Perez was up at heavyweight. And let me point out, Mike Perez at heavyweight was not a great athlete. We'll get to that. But there's a reason why Mike Perez was up at heavyweight. There's a reason why you walk around at the weight you do. When you're an older fighter and then you try to lose the weight to get down to a lighter weight, you'll be surprised how lethargic the fighter is. Keep in mind, these are world-class athletes. They're supposed to be in great shape, right? You'll be surprised how guys lose their reflexes when they drain their bodies to make weight at a lighter weight class. Don't buy all the talk about changed diet and nutritional enlightenment and all that other stuff, right? Low-carb food, etc. No, I want my fighters having carbs, right? I want my fighters close to their natural weight. I get the feeling Mike Perez losing a few pounds. I know he wasn't the biggest heavyweight, but he's losing the few pounds to fight the wrong kind of opponent. Mairis Briedis is one of the best athletes. He's one of the best movers in the sport of boxing. So you're talking about one guy who's going to be sluggish off of losing weight, trying to catch up with a jackrabbit. It doesn't work. Perez is going to be outmaneuvered. Let me also say, too, Perez at heavyweight. You might recall this guy starting fast against Brian Jennings and then getting winded, losing the second half of the fight, looking like he lacked stamina. Now that's at heavy, right? He wasn't a great athlete to begin with. And now you're going to force him to lose weight to fight against a more agile opponent. I'm expecting Briedis to put on an exhibition. I'm expecting Briedis to move twice as fast as Perez. I don't think this fight is close. Let's switch gears. So, Luis Ortiz again failed a drug test. And like many of the people who fail drug tests, right? Alexander Povetkin comes to mind. He has some excuse about how some exotic substances got into his system, right? Shame on him for agreeing to this fight, because this fight would have been a great fight. I was picking Ortiz over Deontay Wilder, right? My prediction was that Ortiz was going to leave the ring the heavyweight champion of the world. And you know the way I feel about that belt, right? There's the heavyweight champion, and then there's everyone else. I can tell you, you know, as you walk around, if you walk up to someone and say, who's the middleweight champion, they might struggle. But if you say, who's the heavyweight champion, people are going to know at least one of the names, right? So, now Deontay Wilder, no fault of his, right? Deontay Wilder, like Oscar De La Hoya, has had multiple opponents scheduled to fight him turn up with a positive drug test. Let me just say this with regard to Oscar De La Hoya. People forget that Shane Mosley later admitted to using EPO for his rematch against Oscar De La Hoya. Now, even juiced up, I thought Shane Mosley lost that fight. Just turning back the clock. But just understand that Mosley juiced against Oscar De La Hoya. I believe some of the deposition transcripts used to be online here on YouTube. Perhaps they are. You want to search for deposition Shane Mosley. Well, let's also remember that one of the biggest grudge matches that De La Hoya had was against El Feroz, Fernando Vargas. Just understand that Fernando Vargas failed the post-fight drug test. Right? Think about how unfortunate De La Hoya was. At least Deontay Wilder doesn't have to fight the guy who's juicing. Right? Oscar De La Hoya went through with the fight. It was a grueling fight at times. Now, Oscar won the fight. But just understand, Vargas was the second opponent to have juiced against Oscar De La Hoya. Well, Deontay Wilder has De La Hoya beaten that regard, because now Wilder is the third opponent to fail a pre-fight drug test. Not Wilder, excuse me. Ortiz is the third opponent to fail a pre-fight drug test before a fight with Deontay Wilder. Right? Guys obviously feel that they need to be on the sauce to compete against Deontay Wilder. So now Wilder's looking for a new dance partner. Right? Let me make a recommendation to everyone, although it might not fit the economics of the fight. To the fighters, let me just say, you know, you get paid now for your last fight. Right? So even if you're not paid top dollar for a heavyweight title fight, understand in your next fight, you're going to make all the money back. So, Deontay Wilder wants greatness. Understand, this is a guy who paid, according to reports, over $100,000 to Bermane Stiverne, a guy he beat already. In other words, this wasn't a payment made to avoid fighting a dangerous opponent. Now, this is a guy whose ass you kicked, who you got the heavyweight title from, who you're saying, look, I'll pay you over $100,000, according to reports, to step aside so I can fight a dangerous opponent that some loudmouths, let me raise my hand here, believe might be able to take my title. That's what Deontay Wilder has done to find a serious opponent. Understand, when he's not doing this, you know what Wilder's doing? He's calling out Anthony Joshua. Right? Google it. Wilder's that heavyweight champion who's calling out the biggest, baddest, or at least the perceived biggest and baddest in the division. So Wilder really wants to be great. He wants to test himself. Fans in boxing really need to applaud a champ like this. Having the belt is not enough. Right? Beating overmatched opponents is not enough. Wilder wants to prove to you that he not only has the belt, he deserves the belt. And for that, he deserves a standing ovation. So what I'm going to ask Wilder to do here is to pivot and fight the guy I believe is the best in the heavyweight division, Joseph Parker. Let me say this to Parker too, because really it's unfair to both men. Right? Wilder's expecting a clunky guy who fights inside. He's not expecting to fight a guy who's going to move and use the ring like Parker. And of course it's unfair to Parker because, number one, Parker already has his own belt. Right? Whether or not he fights Wilder in his next fight, he is a heavyweight champion. And Parker just traveled to his opponent's backyard in the United Kingdom and had a full 12-round fight against Hughie Fury. So this isn't a Parker coming off of a 2-round blowout where he's hardly fought and he's ready to fight another heavyweight champion who, by the way, is also unbeaten. Right? Look at Deontay Wilder's record It is one of the most impressive records of any heavyweight champ in terms of the fact that he's unbeaten, as well as the knockout percentage, right? Coupled with, too, the number of fights. This isn't Anthony Joshua with a bare few fights. This is a guy who's had a number of fights, right? If you just look at the numbers, it looks impressive. I'll agree. Anthony Joshua faced Vladimir Klitschko, has faced the tougher opponents, right? I'll agree with that. Anthony Joshua has the signature win, right? At the end of the day, we remember the signature wins more than any other fight, right? So, you think Ray Leonard, you're talking about an Olympic gold medalist, you're talking about a guy who had many fights, but we remember Leonard Hagler, Leonard Hearns, Leonard Duran, Leonard Benitez, right? The big fights stand out. Deontay Wilder is trying to go for the signature fight now so he can validate the rest of his record. KO percentage more than 90, right? Number of fights more than 30, unbeaten. He feels that people aren't giving him enough credit here. So he's trying to earn that credit. So let me just say, to the Wilder crowd, to the Parker crowd, folks, you have a date that's reserved for November. That's a glamour month in boxing. In New York City. A glamour boxing city. You want the press there? Folks, you're going to have the press there in New York City, right? If I'm Joseph Parker, I understand. They thought Wilder would be fighting Luis Ortiz. So they might not have the money together to compensate a current heavyweight champion who's putting his belt at risk opposite Deontay Wilder. But if I'm Joseph Parker, it couldn't be better. You're telling me that I get to take on an unbeaten American, currently reigning heavyweight champion in America, in America's biggest city, before America's, dare I say, most passionate boxing press corps, right? This is the kind of opportunity that creates legacies. Right? If I'm Parker, and it's unfair, right? He trains for Fury. He travels to the UK. He fights Fury. Then you're saying, hey, player, you have another fight against another unbeaten heavyweight in another foreign country in 4 weeks. Okay. But if Parker feels that he didn't suffer a lot of physical abuse from the Fury fight, if he's not cut, if he's in shape, he feels, he's been training, looked magnificent stamina-wise in the ring. If he feels that he's physically able to give it a go, and if he's been tracking Wilder's career and feels he knows Wilder's fight style and can make the adjustments needed, then in my opinion, this fight would be the second biggest fight of this year. The first, in my opinion, again, I'm biased toward heavyweights, was AJ's win over Vladimir Klitschko, right? To people, and I know the box office numbers are there, to people who feel that a MMA artist making his first pro boxing match against a 40-year-old Floyd Mayweather was the biggest fight of the year. Look, I can't argue with the box office numbers, right? And for those of you who feel that Canelo, lower volume, getting outthrown and outlanded in 9 or 10 of the 12 rounds, and then having the judges call it a draw, was the biggest boxing event of the year. Look, I don't know what to say, right? I can just tell you from this seat, you asked me about the big moments in the sport this year. I'm not thinking Chocolatito losing, getting stopped. I'm thinking of Anthony Joshua in a very close fight, coming in with the uppercut from heaven, right? Dropping Vladimir Klitschko late. Klitschko in the United Kingdom, decked by this young lion late in the fight, gets off the canvas, right? That's the round of the year from this seat. The heavyweight division right now is as exciting as it could be because you have two other unbeaten champions, right? Joshua's unbeaten. You have two other current unbeaten champions. To boxing, let me just ask it, bookend the year. Close the year out with those two champions going at it in New York City. Joe, think about the legacy, right? I know they're going to be paying you, what, Luis Ortiz money. And you're thinking, well, you know, player, I have a belt and I'm unbeaten, right? If they can sweeten it any which way possible, if they could hook you up some other way, who knows, right? This is the fight for both men. Have one man leave the ring with the word unified next to the words heavyweight champion, right? You want to put yourself in the front row seat for the Anthony Joshua sweepstakes, and Joshua does have that much swag and that much power over the heavyweight division, then Deontay Wilder and Joseph Parker, you two guys need to fight each other and have the winner emerge with that front row seat so they can then take on Joshua if, and in my mind it's a big if, Joshua beats Kubrat Pulev. Anyway, that's how I see it. Let me hear from you. To sum up this video, I like Mairis Briedis big over Mike Perez, and I'm hoping that Luis Ortiz failing yet another drug test. I'm not going to coddle these guys who fail multiple drug tests, right? Luis Ortiz failing yet another drug test might have opened the door to an even bigger, more fascinating fight, but I agree, all involved are going to have to show us a lot of courage in accepting that challenge. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section of this video. Thanks for stopping by.